Hello, everybody out there on YouTube, on socials, wherever you're watching. Welcome once again to this week's edition of Alley Talk. We are talking all things Philadelphia Phillies, who have secured the first round bye. A little bit to fight for over the weekend. Yes, it's a stretch, but there's records, there's potential awards, there's potential first place seating on the line against the Minnesota Twins this weekend. A lot to talk about for the Phillies. The big one, as you saw in the preview, if you were in the YouTube waiting for me to get started, apologies for the late start. But if you saw the screenshot ready to go, teasing our episode, you know that the biggest thing on the line this weekend is Kyle Schwarber and his ability to potentially set a new franchise record for home runs in a single season by a Philadelphia Philly. He currently sits at 56. Our guy at Sean Nestor, at Sean _ Nestor, maybe. Sean, yes, at Sean _ Nestor on Twitter. He's been putting together graphics for us all season long for all the big milestones, whether it be single season, whether it be career. And we have a couple in the chamber ready to go for Kyle Schwarber, just in case he does reach that 58th home run over the weekend. Earlier this week, Rob Thompson did say that he still had to have a formal conversation with Kyle about it, but he would be more than willing to allow him to go for that record. As the DH, Kyle even said afterwards, I'm kind of the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to guys who earned a little bit of rest. As the DH, he's not playing out in the field, so getting a little bit of time off would be huge. But Ryan Howard, he has been the franchise leader since 2006. Hitting 58 home runs en route to a MVP season. Back-to-back MVPs by Phillies players. Obviously, Howard in 06 and then Rollins in 07 with a 2020 season. 20 doubles, 20 steals, 20 triples, 20 homers. Incredible season from Jimmy Rollins. But Ryan Howard is the guy we're talking about alongside Kyle Schwarber, one of the greatest left-handed hitters. A guy over at Phillies Nation, Ty Dalbert, had the scoop of the cinch. I don't know if he's posted the article yet, but he grabbed Ryan Howard, who was in the building on Wednesday night, and talked to him a little bit about how exciting it is that someone is approaching his record, and if he wants him to beat it, he said he would love for Kyle to beat it. He's a big guy of records are there to be broken, and while it's cool to have your name in the history books, it's even cooler to watch somebody else take that record down. Rob Thompson also was big on saying that records are meant to be broken. So a few records. Another record we'll get into a little bit later. When the team set a franchise record for wins in 2011, they won 33 series during the regular season, something that they just accomplished yesterday, tying the franchise record 33 series victories. Obviously, you can't guarantee what kind of what you're going to be looking at as far as series in a season. Sometimes there's two gamers, there's split ones, depending. With the London series, there was some confusion around what that series might look like. So a lot going on, a lot to consider this weekend as far as Phillies records are concerned. But as we mentioned at the top, the big one currently is the single season home run record. Kyle Schwarber just too short of Ryan Howard. A cool moment. Luke Arcani tweeted out that Ryan Howard actually hit his 55th and 56th against the Marlins in 2006, something that the big guy Kyle Schwarber was able to accomplish this past week as well. Now he hit his 55th and 56th back on September 8th of that season in a multi-homer effort, just as Schwarber did just 2 days ago on the 24th. He then hit in his next however many games. What's that? The last 21 games of the season, he hit 2 home runs. That's Ryan Howard. Now, just to take a look, he hit 2 home runs. He also walked 28 times versus 25 strikeouts, with 14 of those being intentional walks. So that was a year where they were fighting to try and make the playoffs. They ended up falling short of making the playoffs. I don't remember who they were competing with for that final spot, but obviously they were playing some other teams who were in the mix when it comes to postseason. So they did not want to mess around and ruin their chances by having the hottest hitter in the game take them deep. A little bit of a different approach for the Twins this weekend. Kyle Schwarber is going to be a guy who's likely to be in the lineup all 3 games. Maybe he doesn't play Sunday unless there's a chance for him to break that record and he agrees. If he hits one tonight or tomorrow and has a chance to tie it, or if he hits 2 and has a chance to stand alone, maybe he's in the lineup. But if he hits none, there's a chance that he does not play on Sunday. But again, Howard hit 2 in a game on September 8th and then only hit 2 more the rest of the season. Now, he also hit .328 with a .540 on base percentage during that time. But 2 homers, 6 doubles in those games. 21 contests. Schwarber only has 3 left to match the great season that Ryan Howard had. So time will tell what that ends up looking like. I am very curious what folks out there are taking about the hot take artists that we see in Philly media. One guy in particular, I'll leave him nameless. However, he tweeted out kind of comparing the Saquon Barkley situation last year, where Barkley had a chance to get the single season rushing record. They prioritized rest to make sure that he was healthy for the postseason. Kyle Schwarber, the tweet was phrased, or the post on X was phrased as Phillies are prioritizing records over playoff success. And I don't think that's the case. Here's where we're going to break it down, right? Currently, you have 28 guys on the roster. Well, 14 are pitchers. So that leaves 14 guys to fill out a 9-man lineup every day for the next 3 days. Well, you want to get some guys rest, right? So I'm assuming JT and Bryce will be the 2 guys that likely get the most rest over the next 3 days. Doesn't guarantee it. Bryce had a little bit of time off. JT had a little bit of time off. You still want to work with your pitchers, but those are the 2 obvious candidates to me. Bryce, he's dealt with a wrist thing also earlier in the season, feeling pretty healthy, but you want to make sure your superstar, the guy who shines brightest under the brightest lights, is ready to go for the postseason. You give him a couple extra days off, doesn't have to be in the field. Get JT Realmuto a couple days off of his knees, and normally you might put him at DH, but in this case, with Kyle being at DH, might as well just give JT the full weekend off, especially when you have 2 other catchers. So let's take that into account, right? 14 hitters, 3 of whom are catchers. So if you're assuming that JT will get rest, that's 13 guys left. Your 2 catchers, they're not going to interfere with Schwarber's ability. So you have 11 guys to fill out a 9-man lineup 3 days in a row. Well, who's going to get rest first? The guys who play in the field every day, or the guy who only hits? To me, it's a no-brainer that Kyle Schwarber will be out there in 2, if not all 3 games this weekend with a chance to break the record. It's really cool that they all seem singularly focused on getting the job done, getting the postseason success that they all crave, whether it's talking to Rob Thompson this week, whether it's when reporters went in the clubhouse and spoke to Kyle Schwarber himself, whether it's Trey Turner, who spoke to us prior to yesterday's game down at the ballpark about his recovery. And, he's fighting for a batting title as well. And he said that it would be cool to win that award, but his priority is making sure that he's healthy and ready to go for the postseason. You want to test yourself and see if you can really stand up and hold that hamstring up. But he's also noted multiple times that this hamstring injury is nowhere near as bad as the previous one was. He does qualify for the batting title. There is an outside chance if Nico Horner has the weekend of a lifetime that Trey doesn't need to pick up a bat and he still wins the batting title. He's going to prioritize rest and making sure that hamstring is healthy, especially the thing that he has talked about a lot. And we're going to get more into Trey later in the show, but he has talked about the mental side of it being so big because, you don't really know how comfortable you're going to be with that injury until you get to test it in real speed. And he mentioned yesterday, yes, there's they're going to have an intra-squad game and that'll be fine. But the you really don't know how it's going to feel until you test it in a real live setting. So maybe he steps in this weekend, and if say he plays one or two games, um, we don't know what that's going to do to his average. But if Nico has the weekend of a lifetime, maybe he catches them. Otherwise, you're unlikely to see Trey this weekend. He did say that if he plays, that's a great sign because that means he's 100%. He said he's not going to push it. He's not going to be foolish with it. The trainers aren't going to be foolish or play around with this. So I think that when it comes to Trey Turner, excuse me, especially with him playing such a high demanding position like shortstop, you're likely going to see him rest. Does that mean that they're prioritizing rest over records? No, it's what the situation is. Kyle's not hurt currently. And of course, there are outliers. Like, could he get hit with a pitch and break something? Could he get hit in the head and be done with a concussion for a week? Could he pull a muscle swinging really hard? Sure, but that could happen in the very first at bat of the playoffs as well. It's rare that you get to be in this rarefied air. It's rare that your name gets to carry with a franchise forever. And you have an opportunity to do that. You want to see a guy like Kyle Schwarber go get that, regardless of what his status with the Phillies is moving forward. I'd be curious to hear what some fans think. I think that everybody loves Kyle Schwarber, assumes he's going to be back next year. But I heard a comment from a friend of mine who knows ball, and he brought up an interesting point. I'm not going to say it's a good point, but an interesting point nonetheless. Ryan Howard was a Phillies lifer, drafted by the Phillies, brought up through the Phillies system, played with the Phillies for his entire major league career. I think he had a spell in someone's minor league system after he left the Phillies, but never cracked the big leagues again. And he holds that record, and that's a really cool record for him to have, a Phillies lifer. Well, if Kyle Schwarber breaks the home run record this year and then leaves and signs with another team, are you as excited that he broke the home run record if he's going to go sign with another team and potentially, if he gets into the Hall of Fame, be put in as a Cub or whatever team he signs with next? He helped. He got drafted by the Cubs, brought up by the Cubs, won a World Series with the Cubs, broke the most historic franchise in the most historic championship losing streak in professional sports history. It's the lovable losers, the friendly confines were starved for a championship for over 100 years. He was a part of that team. And if he does not re-sign with the Phillies, it would make a lot of sense that if he does get into the Hall of Fame, that he would go with the Cubs over the Phillies, even though his best span has been with the Phillies if they don't win a World Series this year. Maybe he goes in if they win the World Series this year. And obviously if he sets the home run record. But as a fan of the Phillies, if he breaks the record this year and leaves, are you still excited about the record being broken? Now, me personally, I am. I think that is an exciting thing as a member of the media to cover an exciting race, an exciting new record. I think that will be a cool thing. But I understand where he's coming from a little bit. Do you want to see a guy who may not be connected to the Phillies much longer as the franchise record holder for home runs? So I'm going to put that out on Twitter for folks to kind of talk about a little bit. We'll put a tweet out. I'm going to take a quick drink, and then we're going to get right back into the rest of the Phillies talk. Big series win after dropping the first game. They win back-to-back, a whopper of a game on Wednesday night, followed by a rainy 1-0 victory last night. I was down at the ballpark both nights. So we'll dive into it. Wednesday, I really want to talk about Wednesday because it was such a historic performance by so many guys. So we're going to take a quick moment to get this tweet out, and then I'll be right back to dive into Wednesday's contest. Awesome. Okay, got the post out. Sorry about that, guys. My eyes are struggling a little bit today. Tired from 2 long nights down at the ballpark. Okay, so let's see. First comment in, John. If Trey does not play, it practically assures him of the batting title. Go rest Little Trey. I don't know why I called him Little Trey, but you're right. And I think that he seems to agree. You know, like I said, we had a very long conversation with him about a 9-minute conversation in the dugout yesterday. I got some pics of him and some videos of him doing some work up on the Twitter. He did a little catch this week, did some sprints, really worked on rounding the bag, getting different angles on the hamstring, really testing the hamstring a little bit more than just a straight sprint. So he said he doesn't necessarily feel anything anymore, but just that mental and making sure you're as strong as possible. At the end of the media availability, I asked him, and I have this up on my Instagram and Twitter, how do you balance? Because he talked about the mental part, and you feel strong, but you don't really know. And I asked him, how do you balance the need to build strength and confidence in yourself, whether it's mentally or physically, with the need to get rest after such a long season? He played 150 games, really locked in, had the best defensive season of his career at shortstop, best defensive season by far in a Phillies uniform, that's for sure. And, he's leading the National League in batting average. How do you balance the need to test yourself and make sure that you're strong and get back out there versus, everybody else earns some rest? I'd like to take some rest too, even with that week off. You get a few extra days to, and even next week. That's kind of what I meant by it was next week, everybody's going to have the week off. Yes, they'll be doing workouts, but how do you prioritize the proper amount of rest with making sure that you're confident both physically and mentally in that hamstring so you don't hesitate at all? And he's admitted in the past that long layoff last year where he had with 6.5 weeks off with the severe hamstring strain, it was obvious watching him that there was some hesitancy, but really beyond that, he has admitted that there was some hesitancy, and he said that this one's nowhere near as bad. It doesn't feel the same way. But to get back to the point, I asked him, how do you balance the need to build strength and confidence in yourself with it, whether it's mentally or physically, with the need to get rest after a long season? He said, to be honest with you, I don't feel tired. I don't feel sore. I feel really good. So to me, it's more about pushing and building my confidence and trusting the training staff. Let's try this. Let's do this. Okay, that feels good. Let's do more of that. So the rest thing is, I'm not too worried about it. He had 2 weeks off, and he said, I probably worked harder in those 2 weeks than I did before getting hurt. And that's not saying that he wasn't working hard. Obviously, he's worked hard. You see it in the results on the field. But that's, if you haven't had a major injury in your life, that's what rehab does to you. You're all of a sudden ramping your workouts up. Because it's a little bit of a weakened point on your body, you are working even harder to make sure that you're not overcompensating with something else or leaning on a different part of your body too hard because you're hesitant with this one. You really are putting in that extra work. I'd never had a hamstring injury like this. I'm also not a professional athlete, but I've had a lot of injuries in my life: a torn rotator cuff, a broken leg right behind the knee, broken ankles, broken toes, you name it, I've had it. And as an athlete in high school, wanted to get back on the field and had to work really hard. Obviously, this guy working 50 times as hard as I did to make sure that he can compete on the professional level. So not equating or comparing the two, but just saying that if you haven't been through something like this, you may not understand what he means by that you need to work even harder sometimes when you're doing rehab. So he said, that I don't think the rest thing is an issue of when you're recovering right. It's just a matter of keep pushing the pace until you get back. And I think that you'll likely see him sit out this week. And I agree with John in the comment earlier. I think that him sitting out this weekend, making sure that he feels good, will be good. And then just really push it on Wednesday in that inter squad game. Trying to see, because he did ask specifically about he was asked about the inter squad game specifically. Yeah, he said, last time too, you're never really going to know if you're 100% until you play in a game and you go out and run. So he said, I can sit here and run sprints for another month and you won't know how you feel until you're actually in a game. He's like, so, it's kind of tricking yourself into treating Wednesday like a real game, putting in that maximum effort without straining yourself. and kind of finding out where you stand. Excuse me. So it'll be interesting to watch Trey these next couple days. Yeah, two big things for individuals this weekend. We have the big we have the big home run chase for Kyle Schwarber. We have the batting title coming down to the wire for Trey Turner with Nico Horner nipping at the heels. And then we have from a team perspective, we also have the we also have the 33 series victories with one more series to go. Coming back this weekend with the Minnesota Twins, they'll have Mick Abel on the mound pitching against the Phillies on Saturday. He'll be opposed by Ranger Suarez. Tonight, you'll see Joe Ryan, probably the best pitcher on their staff, opposed by Aaron Nola. And there's an interesting question about Aaron Nola that we're going to get into in a minute, but it's where does he fit on this postseason roster? And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Next week, we're going to do a real big deep dive into postseason roster and where regular season awards we're gonna pick a time where we can get a few PSN guys on. So it might not be same time, same show next week, but we're gonna get into kind of our full breakdown and likely we'll have a better idea of where everybody stands as far as rosters are concerned. So I don't think there's many tough decisions, but who's going to pitch in the bullpen, who's going to pitch, especially in the DS where you only need 3 starters. Do they feel comfortable going to 3 starters? It's going to depend on that, on their opposition and who they have as far as if they have a lot of great right-handed starters, you may need to go right-handed hitters, for example, you may need to go with one of your right-handed options in Aaron Nola, Walker Buehler, Taijuan Walker, at least to start a game. If they're right-handed heavy at the top, regardless of the hand of the pitcher, you may need to change your approach. So, it's not like, if you're facing off against the Mets, for example, Juan Soto is going to be in that top 3. Do you want to put a right-handed starter out there? I don't know. Juan Soto, it almost doesn't matter what hand you're pitching with, but you want to get any advantage you can against a guy like him. So we'll have to see what the opponent looks like as far as current standings, because we're going to get into the weekend matchup in a moment with the Twins. I mentioned the return of Mick Abel. Obviously, Cody Clemens will be returning as well. But right now, the Phillies sit 2 games behind the Brewers for the best record in not only the National League, the best record in all of baseball. Thank you very much. Go Phillies. Love to root for the hometown squad. But the Brewers, 96-63. There is no threat to them in the Central. The only threat to them change-wise is right now the Phillies. I'm going to take a look at the postseason picture as well, but sticking with the East, with the National League rather, the Dodgers at 90-69 are currently leading the West. Padres, I believe, have an outside chance to catch them if they sweep and the Dodgers get swept. I don't know who holds the postseason, the tiebreaker right there at the moment. So I'm actually going to check that out. I'll pull that up in a minute. Stay focused on the task at hand, Fish. Cubs and Padres both have clinched wild card spots. So Cubs will be that top wild card, 89-70, at least for the time being. Padres definitely have a chance to pass them with a sweep. And if the Cubs get swept, so we could see some jostling in the wild card standings. And then the Mets, barely holding on at the moment, 6-4 in their last 10. The Reds only 1 game behind them. Mets 82-77, whereas the Reds are 81-78. D-backs, I mean, in theory, they could catch up. They're sitting at 80-79, even after all the trades they made at the deadline. 2 games out with 3 left to play. A little bit more of a stretch, especially they've lost 2 in a row. They looked like they might compete at the beginning of the week. Losing 2 in a row, that'll kind of shoot yourself in the foot a little bit. Padres, they look like the most dangerous team. They're probably the team I would want to stay away from the most. As it currently stands, the Brewers have that number 1 overall seed. They would face the winner of Cubs and Padres. The Phillies would play the winner of Dodgers and Mets. And while those 2 sound scary, the Dodgers, we all know about the payroll. We all know about the and multiple MVPs sitting at the top of that order. But their starting pitching is good. Their bullpen is not. They have all the names in the world, but Roki Sasaki pitched out of the bullpen the other day. He's not the same guy that he looked like at the beginning of the season. Shohei has it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. I don't think they've committed one way or the other. He may end up pitching out of the bullpen a little bit, but that does put you at risk of losing the DH if they pitch him out of the bullpen. So we'll have to see what that looks like. Obviously, he's going to DH every single game. He said he'd be more than willing to go out in the outfield if they need to use him out of the bullpen. He's done that before as a member of the Angels. So I'd be curious to see what they do there. But that bullpen's disastrous. And the Mets had a really rough go of it with their bullpen. They've started to rebound a little bit, but I got to tell you, their starting pitching is a mess. I mean, a mess. I can't believe how bad they've been. A 5.5 ERA over the last 6 weeks. That doesn't get it done in October, boys. I'll tell you that much. It doesn't get it done in October. A 6.32 since the start of September. A 6.32. That is not going to get it done. Let's just take a look at some of the guys on the Mets right now, because they went from a team that looked like they had surprisingly strong starting pitching, a solid bullpen, and they added so many strong arms. They added Gregory Soto. They added Rogers. They added Helsley all at the deadline, and those guys have just blown up. I don't know what happened to that team, but boy, oh boy, if you're a Phillies fan, it had to be a little bit of fun to watch. So let's just look since let's go trade deadline. Let's go since August 1st. Frankie Montas, a 9 ERA. Reed Garrett, an 8.25 ERA. Peterson, 7.74. Tong, 7.71. Prized deadline acquisition, Ryan Helsley, 7.58. 7.50 for Ryan Stanek. 7.34 for Sean Manaea. 6.18 for Kodai Senga. 4.50 for Gregory Soto, and it's gotten worse if you go 2 weeks out. Clay Holmes, 4.25. Not awful, but fine, right? Even guys like Blackburn, he has a 3.6. They have some guys who are pitching well, but Rogers has pitched well. That's about and McLean, that guy, that rookie, McLean, that guy carved the Phillies up a few weeks ago in Citizens Bank Park. So Nolan McLean, I mean, that guy, he's part of the future. He would likely start a game one. He would likely start a game one for the Mets in the postseason. He's a rookie guy. He got called up a couple weeks into August, and he's been dynamite for the Mets. So a 2.06 ERA, a 1.04 WHIP, 10.69 Ks per nine, only 3 walks per nine. Really carving them up. The series where the Phillies got swept in Citi Field, he went 8 innings scoreless, only allowing 4 hits and no walks. And then in Philly, in a 1-0 loss, he only allowed 1 earned run on 7 hits over 5 1/3. So the Phillies never really figured him out. But outside of that, there's no problems on that roster as far as the Phillies are concerned. So if they continue to hit the way that they've been hitting, I think that is. I don't think that they're a problem. And then the Dodgers, yes, they are a group that really does rise to the occasion. They have a lot of superstars on that team, but that bullpen has been disastrous for a little while now. So I think you may almost want to stay where you are, but that home field advantage is important to Topper. It's important to them. They play so much better at home than they do everywhere else. Jumping over to the comments here, Billy Covington. Do you think the Phillies can get the overall record from the Brewers? They're set up to do so, Bill. I'll tell you that. I mean, they do have a easier go of it. The Brewers, who they have, the Brewers have the Reds the rest of the weekend. So 3 games against a team that's fighting for their wild card lives versus the Phillies playing a team who traded away everybody that they could outside of Byron Buxton at the deadline. To me, that's, I mean, and I'm sure that Bader and Duran want to get a little bit of hey twins, how you doing when they come to town this weekend. So we'll have to. It's possible, but likely, I don't think so, Billy. I don't think it's likely. Again, you're relying on a team that has the best record in baseball getting swept the last weekend of the season against a division rival. I don't think they're going to roll over and do that. I think they want that number 1 seed as much as the Phillies do. And if all they got to do is win 1, they can do that and still get extra rest on Sunday. So I don't think the Phillies get it, but it's within reach, and the Phillies are going to play hard through the weekend. The big thing that I've heard recently from people is, are you concerned about the Phillies? A lot was said last year that they earned the bye, and a lot was said last year about them not being necessarily ready to go, losing a little bit of momentum. And I think that this is a little bit different. You have a lot of pitchers who pitched a lot of innings, so you want to get them healthy with the week off. I think you want to get Trey Turner healthy. You want to make sure JT is good to go and Bryce is good to go. Not that they're dealing with anything, but both of them had, JT got hit with a foul tip in the finger. He came back yesterday. Harper had 2 days off due to an illness. He came back. Bader left the game yesterday with an illness that he battled through until the rain delay. So you want to make sure that these guys are ready to go when the lights shine the brightest. And to me, I think that the week is key. You get to come home and play a series at home against a team that's been through a little bit of a battle, but you get to go into Citizens Bank Park, this madhouse, and where you've played well all season long, and really take advantage of the fact that you have this wonderful home cooking advantage. 53-25 at home this season. I believe that's best in the majors. Best in the majors. 53-25 at home this season. It doesn't get much better than that. The Phillies, yes, you'll have to play the Brewers on the road a little bit, but I think that one is a big. It's unlikely that they get it, but they're going to try for it, and we'll see how tonight goes. Aaron Nola on the mound versus Joe Ryan. And it brings up an interesting question. I'd be curious to see what folks out there think about it. We're going to do one more quick break so I can promote on Twitter. So I think when they get to the NLCS and they need a 4th starter, I think he will make the roster. I think he will be the starter, even if it's on a quick leash, right? Even if they determine that Aaron Nola should, we're going to have him go 2, maybe 3, depending on pitch count, go unleash it, young man, and show people what you've done in the postseason in the past, show that you still got this in you. And then they have people ready to piggyback. He would be the 4th starter. Maybe he goes in game 3 just to break up the lefties a little bit. But he would be the 4th guy that they would turn to in the championship series. The big question for me is, what do you do when it comes to the division series? You're not going to need a 4th starter. With the extra days off, you're only going to need 3 guys. And Thompson has said time and time again he's comfortable going with the 3 lefties. They may do back-to-back lefties, back-to-back power guys, depending on the lineup and the opponent. They may go power pitcher in Sanchez, softer pitcher in Suarez, harder pitcher in Luzardo. But you don't need a 4th starter in the divisional series. You've seen teams leave a starter off in the past who maybe didn't have the confidence in, who has never pitched out of the the bullpen before, and he is a guy who has not pitched out of the bullpen. And I don't think his stuff necessarily plays out of the bullpen. I don't know if he's a guy who would tick from 90 to 95 pitching out of the pen. I think that best case scenario in the DS, he would be mop-up duty out of the bullpen. So it begs the question, what is Aaron Nola's role on this team when it comes to October baseball? Can he do enough tonight in his final start of the regular season to change how you feel about him? And I don't know if there's anything that he can do for me watching him all season long to change the fact that I think he likely will not play a major role. I think he's going to be a guy who, again, maybe he gets that fourth start, but I don't see them. I think he's going to have the quickest leash of anybody. Quickest hook. Hey, walked a guy on 5 pitches. Okay, let's get him out of here. Let's bring in some damage control before this thing gets to a point where we're asking someone to come in with a bases loaded 1-out situation. And it's not a shot at Aaron Nola specific as a guy. He's a great guy. He puts in a ton of work. He works really hard, but at the end of the day, you're not here to save feelings. We've seen things where Max Kepler talked about his feelings earlier this season. He had to work through some things mentally, emotionally to get himself comfortable in the role that he's in. Nick Castellanos has spoken openly about making some adjustments and needing to do that. But they're not doing anything to protect guys' feelings. They're looking to win a World Series. And I don't care what the contract says. Can he go on the field and perform in the biggest moments? And he hasn't proved that he can do that during the regular season this year. He has a decent postseason run, but he's had great moments in the postseason. He's also had rough moments. I would lean towards Rob Thompson's big on the back of the baseball card, but I would lean towards everything that he's shown me this year. And I think they will too, because you saw what they did in 23, I think it was, with Taijuan Walker. Solid season. Below a 4.5 ERA. Had the most wins on the team. And he was carried on the roster, but he was not used. And can you afford to do that with another guy? Especially when Taijuan Walker is one of the guys who might compete with him for that. And Walker, he feels confident. And everything he's been asked to do this season, he's done it. He's gone back and forth between that rotation and bullpen multiple times. And I think he's pitched well enough to earn himself a spot. Now, it may not be as a starter. It may not be as a primary guy, but he has earned himself consideration for this postseason roster. And unfortunately, it may come down to him and Aaron. And who do you go to? In the division series, I think you're more likely to see Taijuan Walker than you are Aaron Nola. Now, Nola will be there. He'll be a top step kind of guy, and he'll root on his guys, and he'll give them the insight of a veteran pitcher. And Cole Hamels told me one of the things that he thinks Zach Wheeler will be able to do while he's out is benefit more people at once, because he doesn't have to focus on himself while he's out injured. He can help guys focus and get better and more help spread that message to more than just 1 or 2 guys at a time. And Aaron Nola can do that during the DS. He's pitched in big moments. He's kept his cool in big time games. I think he's a guy who could add something just by being with the team, even if he's not on the roster. The big question will be the championship series. And I think we're going to have to see how Nola goes here. We're going to have to see what the other guys look like. Do they take Walker? Do they keep Lou Trevino around? Grew up a Phillies fan. He's pitched well for them since coming over. Do they keep him in? There's, despite us being in a good position as Phillies fans, as the team themselves are in a good position, it is not an easy decision. They still have plenty of decisions to make, despite them kind of being knowing where they're going to be going into the postseason. They still have some tough choices when it comes to the roster. Want to do a quick reset. So just appreciate everybody joining. For those of you who haven't joined yet, you are watching Alley Talk, Philly Sports Network's weekly Phillies live stream here on YouTube and on X. We happy to have you. We like to keep things in a level headed. We're not hot take artists out here. We're just people who enjoy ball, who love baseball, and want to talk about it with a couple hundred of their closest friends. That's all I'm looking to do every weekend. Just a couple hundred of my closest friends come in here. Let's chat ball. Let's talk about Phillies baseball. And we're at an exciting time right now. Kyle Schwarber he'll likely play 2, if not all 3 games this weekend with a chance to tie or surpass Ryan Howard for the league lead. Trey Turner returning from injury. He may get into a game this weekend. If he does, he said that will mean that he is at 100%, so you should feel confident if he does get in a game. But he does have that batting title all but locked up and will likely, I would assume they would keep him out the rest of the week just to make sure that he feels good. And they can really test it during the week off. Phillies have a chance if they beat the Twins this weekend, if they win the series, that is, to set a new franchise mark in series victories for a season. They're currently tied with the 2011 crew with 33 series won. They have a chance with 2 out of the next 3 to surpass that mark. So there's not always the same number of series in a season. That's why even though they won over 100 games in 2011, they only had the same 33 series victories that this year's club does, currently with 94 wins and 3 left to play. There is a chance that they could, with 3 more games left, with a sweep, and the Brewers getting swept by Cincinnati, they could potentially take over that number 1 spot. One thing that would cause, however, is they would flip to the number 1 seed, which is great. They would keep home field advantage throughout the World Series. They would have to face the winner of Cubs and Padres. Cubs, at one point, considered one of the best teams. They have Kyle Tucker, who just returned from injury. PCA. They have a really strong lineup top to bottom. Padres, we know about Fernando Tatis. We know about Merrill. We know about Machado. Oh, and they happen to have the best bullpen in all of baseball. So might not be ideal. However, you would avoid if the Brewers get swept, that means that the Reds would then be in the playoffs because the Reds are playing the Brewers. The Reds would surpass the Mets. And I mean, I guess the Mets could sweep this weekend too. But if the Mets, the Reds would likely go in. And if you have Andrew Abbott and who's it? Henry? Oh my goodness. Why am I blanking on the name? Chase Burns. Woo! Chase Burns, Hunter Green, Andrew Abbott coming at you in a 3-game set. I don't know if anybody can compete well against that. I know that you have strong hitters and you can get things done, but I don't know if I want to face those 3 in a short series. Billy, once again, hopping in the comments. Appreciate the love, Bill. Who do you think the Phillies will play against to win the pennant? So if we're talking NL pennant, I think it's going to be another rematch between the Phillies and the Padres. I think the Padres are going to take down the Brewers. Phillies have played the Padres in not last season, but they played them in the playoffs 2 seasons in a row. I think that you see another matchup with the Padres. They have guys who are used to playing under the bright lights, who love those moments in Machado and Tatis. And again, that stellar bullpen would be huge. If they are able to make it past everybody and get to the World Series, man, if you asked me a month ago, I would have said Detroit, but they are not necessarily where you want to be. They're barely hanging on for their playoff lives at the moment. Cleveland's red hot. Oh, geez. I don't know. Give me Toronto. I'd say Toronto. Toronto versus Philly in a rematch of the 93 World Series. Oh man. It's a tough one, man. They got 3 people out there in the AL East. Jeez. If Astros make it back in, that could be something, we'll see what happens there, but I'd go Phillies Blue Jays in the World Series. Could be Phillies Yankees. Yankees seem to turn it on when things matter the most. Their media market's crazy, even crazier than Phillies media market. They have one of the best records in all of baseball all season long. They have Aaron Judge having one of the most incredible seasons of anybody, and he's going to run. He should win the MVP. I don't care what Cal Raleigh does. I know he has 60 homers, unless he gets like 65, maybe. But maybe people celebrate the home run number. I don't know. But look, just do yourself a favor and look at Aaron Judge's Baseball Reference. Look for all the bolds and italics this season, and you'll see why he should win. Like I said, I mean, maybe Cal Raleigh goes off and Seattle goes on a run, but I'd say just how consistent Toronto has been, I would probably go with Toronto if to face off against the Phillies if the Phillies make it all the way to the World Series. But we do have a few games before we get there this weekend. We also had a nice, fun series this week. The Phillies took on a struggling Marlins team. And on Wednesday night, they had one of the most historic games in Phillies history. That's right. I said it. You could not have predicted the game that they had on Wednesday. They hit a franchise record, 8 home runs. 8. 2 by Kyle Schwarber. 1 by Alec Bohm. 1 by Otto Kemp. 1 by Bryson Stott. It was the furthest home run he's hit of his career, 440 feet, excuse me. And it was also off a lefty. He hasn't hit a home run off a left-hander in a year and a half. That's how locked in Bryson Stott is at the moment. Oh, yeah, and I forgot. Edmundo Sosa hit 3 home runs. Edmundo freaking Sosa. All the people love Sosa. You can edit it in your head back to the original lyrics, but everybody loves Sosa. 3-homer night. One of the more surprising things I've heard during my research. First ever Phillies shortstop to hit 3 home runs in a game. That is incredible. That is incredible. Rob Thompson, as I said, I think any record is great and every record is meant to be broken. But more importantly, it came on a really important night. It was the night they secured that first round bye. It's like winning a playoff series, really. But we have more to do. Milwaukee hasn't been clinched yet, so we got to keep playing, but it is great. Second time this season and 5th time ever, the Phillies hit 7 or more long balls in a game. Some fun notes for you from Wednesday's pummeling of the Marlins. Sosa had 3 homers. It was the first Phillies shortstop to do it in franchise history. It was the first multi-homer game in his career. It brought his slugging percentage against left-handers to a .533 at the time. That would be 5th best in the National League and 18th best in all of baseball if he had enough at-bats to qualify. .533 slug. Insane. 533 slug against lefties as a right-hander. He ties his career high with RBIs in a game with 5. He ties his career high for home runs in a season with 10. He also became the 10th Phillies hitter to record 10 or more homers. That's just they've only done that one other time in 2019. Having 10 guys hit 10 homers, that's crazy. He's also the 5th Phillies infielder to reach that mark. They haven't done that since 2004. The Jim Thome, David Bell, Placido Polanco, Chase Utley, Jimmy Rollins 2004 Phillies squad. All 5 of those guys to reach. I believe that was the year that they traded Polanco at the deadline as well, and had Utley become the full-time second baseman. So, just incredible stuff. Incredible stuff from Sosa. And also, I ain't done. Incredible stuff from Sosa, but I ain't done. I do want to check real quick before we move on what his slug, how his slug ranks now after a couple more games. So we're going to look slug versus lefties. Did I click on it twice? I clicked on it twice. Slug against lefties this season. Where you at? There we go. Nope, not O'Neal Cruz with a 176. We're going to go back to the top instead of sorting for the worst. Schwarber's 601 would be tops in the National League and fifth overall in baseball. And then hold on, I got to look at where our guy Edmundo ranks at the moment. So let's go Edmundo. Roster. Let's go. Versus lefties. The slug versus lefties. Still sits at 533. So I know that he played yesterday, but still sits at 533. That would be good again for fifth in the National League if he were to qualify. So incredible surge from Edmundo Sosa this year. And man, like what a pickup that guy has been. Kyle Schwarber also had an incredible night. 2 home runs. Fifth time in 2025 he had a multi-homer game. 22nd time he's done so as a Philly, which is good for fourth in franchise history. And let me remind you, he's only been here for 4 years. Incredible stuff. 36th time he's done so in his career. He has 23 homers off of left-handed pitching this season. That is the most by any left-handed hitter in the history of baseball. That's right. More than Barry Bonds, more than Ken Griffey Jr., more than any great you can think of from any era. 23 home runs against left-handed pitching as a left-handed hitter, the most in Major League history. Really, really awesome season from Kyle Schwarber. He reached 80 extra base hits. He's the first Philly to do that since Ryan Howard, who hit 86 in 2009. So not even the year where he hit 58 home runs. He was an extra base hit machine after that, right? So 2009, the last season that someone did it. Again, now 2 home runs away from tying the franchise record. Schwarber, Kemp, Bohm, and Sosa all went yard in the 7th inning on Wednesday night. It was the 3rd time in franchise history that the Phillies hit 4 or more homers in an inning, and the first since 1985. They had 2 separate back-to-backs in that one. So back-to-back, another hitter, and then back-to-back again. Jesus Luzardo also had an incredible night, solidifying a great season. People remember how shaky things looked in there for a little bit. But before I get there, I do see the comment from John. Given the Sosa stuff you rattled off, are we going to see him start at second base versus lefties in the playoffs? I think that that's a very good possibility. I know that Bryson Stott has been locked in, but you know that when Trey Turner's back, he's going to take over the everyday duties at shortstop. And Rob felt pretty good about mixing and matching Sosa and Stott for a while there. And I think he has a lot of faith in Sosa. I think that Sosa is going to get some love. He did say it's going to be the matchup dependent. So one of the reporters, I believe it was Matt Gelb of The Athletic, but during Topper's post-game, I believe it was after Wednesday's game. I'll have to confirm for you guys, but he was asked specifically, with how Stott has been performing over these last 6 weeks, especially against lefties, has that given consideration to putting him in against left-handers in the postseason? And he said it's all going to be matchup dependent. You know, a really tough lefty, I don't care how good he's hitting, we're probably going to go in a different direction. So it depends on the lefty, depends on the situation. I think that lends itself to Sosa getting a start here and there against a left-handed starter. And you have the added benefit of, I just went over how good he's been hitting the ball. But he was brought in as a defense-first utility guy to play the infield, and he has been a great defender this year. You see no drop-off when Stott is out and Sosa is in at second base. So not only can you feel confident that you're losing nothing on the defensive end, you're also getting a guy who would if he had enough at-bats, have the 5th best slugging percentage against left-handed pitching in the National League. So I'm not the decision maker, John, but I say without a doubt that you'll see him get a couple starts. May not be against every single lefty, but I think he starts some games against left-handers come the postseason. Great comment from John. Great shout. John, we'll have to have you on one of the postseason episodes as well. I know we had John on a couple weeks ago, and we'll have to have you on before the postseason wraps up again. Head researcher over at CBS brings some great stuff to the table. If you're not watching CBS, what are you doing? They got all the best stats, all the best insight in the world. Go check them out. Anyway, Uh, Luzardo, heavy pitch count early in the game, but he struck out 6 guys through 2 innings. So every out he recorded was through the strikeout. Uh, Thompson was most excited about the way he settled in and gave himself an opportunity to go 7 innings on the night. That's the biggest thing for me is his ability. He settled down and was able to coast the rest of the way, get a lot of soft contact as opposed to trying to rack up the strikeouts. Not that he can't do that. He still finished the day with 10 strikeouts, no walks as well. And this one has been the big tweet of mine that's kind of gone a little rampant out here. But Phillies, we mentioned it, 8 homers by the offense. The starting pitcher gave you 10 strikeouts and 0 walks. The Phillies are the first team in history to have those 2 things happen in the same game. Major League history. First team ever to hit 8 home runs and have their starting pitcher record 10 strikeouts and 0 walks. That's the kind of night that they had on Wednesday. So incredible night. Again, he recorded 10 Ks in the game. It's the 14th such game of his career, the 7th that he's had this season. So half of them came this season alone. He set a new career high with strikeouts in a season with 216. He set a new career high in innings pitched with 183 and 2/3, and he tied his career high with 32 starts. The 2.8 walks per 9 on the season is tied for the second lowest of his career. I believe he has a 3.93 ERA. I don't want to get this wrong. 3.9. Let me pull it up real quick so I'm not grasping at straws here. Let's look at the guy. Come on. Where is he? Luzardo. Yeah, so Luzardo on the season, a 3.92 ERA, 3.92 ERA. And he had, now look, I'm very big on you can't pick and choose your favorite moments of the season to make a guy look better. But I think everybody thought that there was a little bit of an oddity when he was forced to kind of eat it 2 starts in a row. He had a start where he went 3 1/3 and allowed 12 earned runs. And then his next time out, he went 2 1/3 and allowed 8 earned runs. He was left out there to eat it 2 games in a row while he was dealing with some pitch tipping stuff, with some mechanical issues that they've done a lot of work to work on the rest of the season to fix, to correct, to make sure his mechanics were flowing and they were second nature. He wasn't thinking too much out there on the mound. And he has really settled in since then. If you were to remove those 2 games, and I know, again, you cannot remove it, it's part of the season story, but if you were to remove those 2 games, you are talking about a guy with a 3.03 ERA. Come on. I mean, 3.03 ERA from a guy who was I think at one point was looked at as an afterthought when he was when they traded for him in the offseason. Oh, he's a reclamation project. All those injuries last season. It has paid off and then some, especially after the news of losing Zach Wheeler. To have a guy like this, and no offense to the kid, but to not have to rely and push Andrew Painter, who has struggled since coming back from Tommy John surgery, to not have to rely on him this season because you had a guy like this. Obviously, you had Ranger, but you had a guy like this. You had a guy like Mick Abel who performed and was able to not only come up and give you a couple starts when you needed it in the middle of the season, but he also had rebuilt his value so much that he got you the best closer in the game, Joan Duran. So that is, to have guys like that and not have to rely on Andrew Painter and throw him to the wolves and test him in his young career. To have a guy like Luzardo pitch this well, so you don't need that, is a wonder in and of itself, and it just goes to show the development, the department that Dombrowski has built and what he's been able to do for this squad. I just want to take a look at what his ERA has been since that awful stretch. Okay, so it's a 3.57 since that rough stretch. Not as insane as I thought it was going to be, but a 3.57 since that terrible stretch. Again, I think before that he was, one of the talked about as like, man, is this guy going to win a Cy Young award? He was talked about as one of the better pitchers. Yeah, 2.15 before that horrible blow up, a 3.57 the rest of the way. As your third starter, you are not going to complain about a 3.57 ERA. So really impressive stuff from Luzardo down the stretch, and especially on Wednesday night in that historic game. They have 14 as a staff, 10 strikeout, 0 walk games this season. The next closest team is the Detroit Tigers with 7. The starting staff has been absolutely incredible. Even without Zach Wheeler, they have really maintained a high level of performance. Thompson talking about Luzardo's performance after the game. He said he was fantastic. He keeps rolling along here, knock on wood, but the changeup was really effective tonight. He got 2 strikeouts in the first inning on 3-2 pitches. The changeup and the slider were good. He filled up the zone. That's been a big thing for Thompson, is getting guys to feel comfortable attacking the zone. Don't trust your stuff more than you're worried about the guy in the box. If you attack the zone, good things are more likely to happen. Obviously you can leave something over the middle, but walking guys has gotten this pitching staff in trouble in the past, and trying to be too fine has gotten this pitching staff in trouble in the past. And filling up the zone has been something that Thompson has talked about all season long. And again, he reiterated it then. 42 pitches after the second inning, and he settles in to record 10 Ks on the night. He said when the fastball command is there, it changes who Luzardo is as a pitcher. His off-speed stuff has been great, but when the fastball command is there, it really changes who he is. And you could see a difference in the fastball location after the second inning, which is an incredible thing to watch, making in-game adjustments. Between start adjustments, you're assuming everybody's doing that, right? The in-between adjustments are something that are required of every pitching coach, every staff, every catcher, every pitcher. You need to make adjustments in between. You go back and watch video. What did we do well? What did we not do well? What worked well against lefties? What worked well against righties? It's all part of your in-between starts work. But to make that adjustment in the middle of the game, to say, hey, you know what? Okay, I need to focus up more on a lot of pitches in these first 2 innings. Let me make sure that fastball is working to keep guys off balance even more. I got the strikeouts, but a lot of pitches isn't going to work. I need to really zone in and get this fastball to the spots where I need it to be and really paint the black with that fastball. And he was able to do that. And to me, that's a very, very encouraging sign from a guy who already gave me a ton of encouraging signs in Jesus Luzardo. So it'll be nice. It is nice to see them really they've, not that he was a gem, because I think everybody knew how good he could be, but man, just really, really promising stuff. Philly, like I said, Philly has a chance to set a new franchise record this weekend. Thompson, the 4th manager in MLB history to reach the postseason in each of his first 4 full seasons to begin a managerial career. He joins Dave Roberts, Aaron Boone, and Mike Matheny as the only managers to do so. Again, Walker Buehler pitched last night through a very strong outing, and he saw something. Look, I'm not going to spend too much time on this one because I want to get to the weekend, and then we're going to get out of here. Appreciate all the love. Appreciate everybody watching. Make sure you follow at Philadelphia SN on X. Follow me at Kyle Fisher 45 on X, Linktree, Instagram, and then at Kyle Fisher Media on YouTube. But being said, one of the coolest things I've ever seen, I don't think I ever saw this in a regular season game before, and I asked Rob Thompson if he ever saw it, and he said he doesn't see it in regular season very often, if he has at all. Walker Buehler goes 5 solid innings, 0 runs, 2 hits, 3 walks. And then, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it other than a deranged lunatic. Instead of walking to the dugout, he walked out to the bullpen and kept throwing. I mean, come on. Who goes out, throws 74 pitches and like, you know what? I ain't done, coach. I don't care what you say. I ain't done. I'm going to go out there and keep throwing. I thought it was such a cool moment, such a badass moment from Buehler. Now, Thompson didn't make that big of a deal of it. You know, he did say that he typically doesn't see it during the regular season, but with Buehler's specific case, he hasn't been stretched out. I think he wants to be stretched out just to make sure that he can be a guy who can go in the rotation if they need him. He could potentially be that fourth guy in the CS. He did pitch out of the bullpen in the final game of the World Series last year, but mostly was a starter for the Dodgers last season in the postseason. And he seems comfortable in pitching whatever role. Rob Thompson spoke about him last night. He said, you know, he's he doesn't scare. There we go. Ooh, sorry. Found it. He doesn't scare. He likes the bright lights and he performs well. So you have to take that into account. That was after they asked. He was asked by another reporter about if you take his postseason experience and acumen into account when making roster decisions for the DS and the CS. And obviously, it's something, you know, he hasn't been with the team very long. 2 starts, 1 relief appearance. But you know, he's a fiery guy. He has experience, and he said, you know, the DFA situation is what it was, but he came here because he knows he has a chance to win a World Series and to be around the guys he's been around so far. He feels confident that they can do so, and he'll just like to celebrate in a prominent role, whatever that role may be. He even said, "If I need to be the biggest cheerleader, I'll be the best damn cheerleader there is." So I'm paraphrasing, not a direct quote there, but he said he would be the best cheerleader if you needed. Taijuan Walker also looked solid out of the bullpen. His velo was up a little bit. The splitter was really working, so that's promising for his role in the postseason. Again, they have some tough decisions to make, and if Rob Thompson has shown anything this year, it's that feelings come secondary, and they're going to make the best decision that they can to help this team win. Yeah, okay. Appreciate all the love, guys. We're going to talk about this weekend's series a little bit before we go. We have tonight, I mentioned it already, Aaron Nola going for the Phillies, opposed by Joe Ryan from the Twins. Let's go ahead and take a look about Joe Ryan and how he's done against these Phillies in the past. Joe Ryan, solid pitcher for Minnesota. Mick Abel going tomorrow. He has never pitched against anybody on the Phillies. How about that? Well, that's fun. That's good to know. So, have the Phillies released a lineup yet? Yes, they have. So we got Schwarber, Harper, Marsh, Castellanos getting the start. Kepler was removed from the game due to illness yesterday. So Castellanos, but one thing that has gone understated, Castellanos has been hitting right-handers pretty well. Even though he's mostly faced lefties since this kind of platoon situation on the 17th of August started. I want to make sure I'm not screwing up the numbers here, but I looked and there was like 100-point difference between his numbers against righties and lefties since the 17th. Let's go, because that is when if you remember after the deadline when they acquired Bader, they talked about a rotation of two guys it was Bader, Marsh, Kepler, and Weston Wilson. And then Castellanos was just a regular out in right field every day. And then quietly, he ended up being added to that rotation. And the 16th was a game where he was out of the lineup unexpectedly, with no other explanation other than we are trying to win, right? We're trying it's I believe that's the day where he said leave your ego at the door. And Castellanos has done that. I mean, he's spoken openly about how he's feeling, but it wasn't to take shots. He's played pretty well, all things considered. He's actually performed better against right-handers since being added to that than he has against left-handers. Now he's done well off the bench as well, but September he's hitting 286 in 14 games. 9 games started, he's hitting 286 with a 452 slug. Against right-handers, he's hitting 304 with a 385 on base and a 478 slug. 206 against lefties. So I don't think that there's anything in particular to dive deeper into on that. I don't think that that should change their approach. I think it's working for most of the guys. Weston Wilson's taken a little bit of a step back, but it's working for Bader. Bader's basically become the steady. It's working for Marsh. It's working for Kepler. On the season, the numbers are a little bit closer, but still, Castellanos has hit better against righties than he has lefties. Early in the season, there was more of a split, but those things have started to sort of even out. Woo! There we go. But the reason I'm looking at this is because if you look at Joe Ryan's splits, he does much better against right-handers than he does against left-handers. So a 574 OPS versus righties this season, a 756 OPS against lefties. We'll have to see who wins that. You have a guy who's better against right-handed hitting all season long versus a guy who's a little bit better against right-handed pitching over the last 6 weeks. So it'll be interesting to see what Casty does tonight. Again, the Phillies then turn around on Saturday. They'll send Ranger Suarez to the mound to face off against former teammate, former top prospect, Mick Abel. Mick Abel making his first start against the Phillies after making his first start of his major league career for the Phillies earlier this season. Ranger Suarez trying to get some last work in. He has pitched well against the few guys that he has faced. Christian Vazquez, who's played all over the place. I think he played Houston and Boston in the past before signing with Minnesota. He is 3 for 5 off Suarez in his career. Brooks Lee is 1 for 3. Edward Julian, 1 for, tired. 1 for 3. Ryan Jeffers 0 for 5. Byron Buxton 0 for 3. Jeffers 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. But yeah, Christian Vazquez is the only guy. Only 5 people have faced him. They have a lot of new faces down there. Again, I wouldn't even know. I don't know if you even have a full major league roster over there at the moment, but they should be in pretty good shape. Again, you're Mick Abel. He's, you like the kid, but he hasn't pitched incredibly well outside of those first 2 starts in a Phillies uniform. Let me see how he's done since going over to Minnesota. Actually got to see the Twins Stadium this past weekend. I was in Minneapolis for Vikings and for CBS for the Vikings game, and they had a doubleheader. I landed, and my production meeting Saturday wasn't until that evening, so walked my butt down to the stadium and got to see a nice game. Cleveland beat up on them pretty good, but still a nice game. Nice to see another stadium as well. I think I'm up to 14 stadiums right now, which is pretty sweet. Ever since going to Philly, he's made 3 appearances for the Twins. A 3-inning outing against the White Sox, a 1-inning blown save where he allowed 5 earned runs on 7 hits against the Padres, and a 4-inning start against Cleveland just last week on the 20th. So not necessarily the best outcomes from Mick Abel. However, they have done really good with people, with young pitchers in the past. They did great with Joe Ryan, developing him. Who was the guy that they got from the Marlins who had pitched well for them for a couple years? I'm going to kick myself for not remembering. Maybe it was Joe Ryan, but they've done well with some young pitching in the past. Obviously, Cody Clemens coming back, that'll be fun to see Cody back in Citizens Bank Park. May even smack one out. Simeon Woods Richardson's been a solid arm for them. Pablo Lopez is the guy I was thinking of. Pablo Lopez. I know he's injured right now, but they did a great job at developing him, and Mick Abel did a really good job this past year of getting himself right to give himself value to another team, to give himself value as far as a trade chip for the Phillies. So it'll be fun to see Mick. It'll be fun to talk to him again. However, Phillies have much bigger things than catching up with an old friend in mind. And then the aforementioned Simeon Woods Richardson will go on Sunday. The right-hander has a 7-4 record, a 4.27 ERA. He will be opposed by Cy Young candidate, Cy Young hopeful Christopher Sanchez, who is tearing things up as usual. I don't think he's going to win the Cy Young. That'll probably go to one Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens really carving things up. 2.16 ERA. A 216 strikeouts, a 1.97 ERA for Paul Skeens. He will likely be the guy. Maybe Freddie Peralta. To have 201 strikeouts, over 174 innings is really impressive. Excuse me. Ooh, hiccups all of a sudden. But Christopher Sanchez is right there. 196 innings. He will surpass that he'll surpass 200 on Sunday. 204 Ks. He'll rack up a couple more strikeouts this weekend on Sunday in a get-right start. We'll see if they go. They probably won't push him. Just get regular work in, get 5-6 innings in. Maybe get some bullpen guys some work in before it's all wrapped up. But Christopher Sanchez going Sunday, that should be a dub for the Phillies, regardless of how short his proverbial leash is. So we got a lot of things to watch this weekend, despite the fact that the Phillies are pretty secure in their spot. They locked up that first round bye, but if they sweep and the Brewers get swept, they could get home field advantage throughout the entirety of the playoffs through the World Series, even over those pesky Milwaukee Brewers. So a lot of fun stuff to watch. We will have media down at the ballpark next week. There's going to be 3 media availability days, including the day of the inter-squad game. It'll likely be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. So make sure you stay tuned into Philly Sports Network at Philadelphia SN on X, Philly Sports Net on Blue Sky, Philly Sports Network on Instagram. Make sure you keep a close eye on all of our guys covering. We have, who do we have in the ballpark tonight? So you can go follow them and make sure you get the latest and greatest for all things PSN. Who is down there tonight? They're going to kill me. Check the sheet. I know. That's what I'm doing, fellas. Don't worry. I'm checking the sheet right now. That's how I'm going to find out who's down there. We have Alec Costaval, our guy at Costaval on base on X. He'll be down there the next 2 nights, so make sure you stay tuned to phillysportsnetwork.com for everything he brings to you. And then we'll have our guy Sean Nestor, who's been killing it all year with the graphics, obviously killing it with the coverage as well. He'll be down there for the finale on Sunday. Make sure you keep it tuned in to Philly Sports Network all postseason long. We're going to bring you the latest and greatest in Phillies content. We will have people down in the box for every postseason game at home. And we would love to hear from you guys every single week here on Alley Talk. We will make sure we communicate through social media what the schedule will be moving forward. We'll likely do a larger group some point next week. We may keep this time slot, so we may have 2 shows next week. We are still discussing that internally as a team. We'll make sure to let you know. Appreciate guys like John, like John Fisher, like Billy Covington hopping in the comments. We love the commenters here. Make sure you jump in. We have our own topics, but we love hearing from you guys and what the fan base wants to talk about as well. So make sure you give us your topics and what you want to hear every single week. Kyle Schwarber has a chance at the franchise record. They have a franchise record chance. A chance at They have a chance at a franchise record 34 straight. And cut. They have a chance at a franchise record 34 series victories. Kyle Schwarber has a chance at a franchise record 58 home runs. Trey Turner has a chance at the batting title. There is plenty to root for this weekend. So whether it's down at the ballpark, whether it's watching at home on the television, make sure you stay locked in to Phillies baseball this weekend, and make sure you stay locked into Philly Sports Network for all your Phillies coverage needs. Love you guys. Appreciate you. We're going to wrap up here. Make sure you give us a follow at Philadelphia SN, at Kyle Fisher 45 on all your social media. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. We love ball. Baseball is awesome. And we will talk to you guys next week.